the proceedings. We will not use the chat feature in this meeting. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting. This meeting is open to the public, but it's not a public hearing. Therefore, no members of the public may speak unless specifically invited to do so. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon the recommendation of staff or the chair. We appreciate your attendance at this meeting. Should you have any questions about this process, you may call our staff at 860-444-5813 after the meeting is ended. The first item, I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:31. And Julie, will you sit for Rich Muckle?
Yes. Do I have to chair?
No, I'm chairing.
Yes, that's great.
So we appointed the alternates. The next item on the agenda is approval of the June 11th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 11th, 2020 meeting.
Right. Is there a second?
I second. Julie Wainscott.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing that there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Go to the application review. First one is C-20-08, 15 Larry Drive, in-ground. Applicant is Kimberly Devlin and Robert Grew. Staff, would you like to start us off?
Yep, let me know if everyone can hear me.
Yeah, it's kind of spotty. Breaks up every so often, but generally I can get the message.
Okay, so at the commission's recommendation, the applicant had hired Jim Cowan from Cowan Eco Design LLC. You should have a copy of the wetland description and wetland impact report.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has that?
Yes.
We do. I do.
Yes.
So,
Question by commission members.
should we bring it up? All right, so hearing none, I went over some of these recommendations that are actually in the report for the work to be done. The report talks about that the area of proposed activity would result in a minor impact of wetland functions and values. Conversion of native vegetation to residential can have a negative impact on wildlife and their habitats. This is an unavoidable impact of land development. In this case, the wildlife habitat is general in nature and limited by invasive species and surrounding residential use. Since wetland hydrology has a short hydro period in the growing season, we do not anticipate any impact to wetland wildlife. And he further goes on to say these impacts are not considered significant for the overall wetland, most of which is off-site. Impacts can be further reduced by best management practices and implementation of the following mitigation measures. And he goes on to list 11 measures on page 3 of the report.
Okay. Any comments from commission members on the report, on measures?
Oh.
I have the trees been removed?
No, I've not done any work on the property. I wanted to wait till everything was discussed and approved because there just would have been damage to wetlands by getting a truck in there to get the trees down. So I just waited.
Okay. What's the feeling of the commission? Are we ready to go to draft?
Um, I'm trying to catch up here a little bit, and so the report was that the impact to the wetland itself is going to be minor. And we have how much disturbance of the wetland? 1,000, 1,400 square feet.
Well,
20 by 70. Yeah.
the total disturbance is 2,250.
Is 2,250, and is this area pretty much wet throughout the year, or seasonally dry?
Maureen, did you want me to?
It's addressed in the wetland report. The wetland hydrology is seasonally saturated. That's on page 2.
Okay, well, I didn't see.
Ponding or flow.
Okay, I don't have any questions right now, but I'll get right back to you.
Maureen, how much disturbance was there from the approved shed in 2012?
It was granted as of right. It's just a stone 20 by 20 pad.
Okay.
So it was just gravel placed to support the shed. So it's 400 square feet. And the original approval to build the house in 1995 or 6 was 1,800 square feet.
Maureen, just a question here because I think it's relevant to the decision of the commission. The gravel pad that was authorized in 2012 was authorized as a permitted use under section 4.1. Do we have an exact reading of 4.1 for the commission such that we can be aware of what that is? Do we have that on hand?
I can get the regs if you don't have them.
I don't have them in front of me, unfortunately.
I do. That's my job. The 4.1 is a as of right for residential improvement. 4.1, I think it was D, uses incidental to the enjoyment or maintenance of a residential property, such property defined as equal to or smaller than the largest minimum residential lot permitted in the town of Waterford and containing a structure. Such incidental uses shall include maintenance of existing structures and landscaping, but shall not include removal or deposition of significant amounts of material as determined by the commission from or into a wetland or watercourse, or diversion, alteration, obstruction, or pollution of a watercourse or wetland. That was for the pad to support the shed.
Correct. So I'm thinking about this, and specifically the exact wording which I'm taking I take caution with is removal of significant amounts of material, because in order to put in the pool, and this is an in-ground pool, correct?
Right. Michael, this is a regulated activity under section 6.
Okay.
This is not an as of right.
Okay.
That's why he's prepared all this information.
Apologies.
So to keep in with the regs, so I prepared a staff report for the commission dated July 6th. Do you all have that?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going to just trying to summarize what the proposed activity it is, and that to break down the permanent versus the temporary disturbance, about 1,400 square feet of wetland that will be permanently altered to put the pool in as proposed and the fill and the concrete pad around it. The remaining 800 square feet is in the wetland that's east of the house. It's estimated that that will be disturbed and need to be cut down, mowed down, and compacted, because to get the trucks in, get the materials in, and everything has to be backed out because of the linear and layout nature of the site. The applicant has just laid it out that that's going to be another impact area. The more that area is reduced, the less has to be restored, but still some of that area needs to be remained open for the fence and access to the pool. So the application is for the total of 2,200 square feet, 2,250 of impact area. 1,400 of that is going to be permanent. The rest will be temporary. To mitigate that, the original application proposed to take all the rest of that wetland to the east side of the house and remove all the briars, all the down stuff, and try to replant some native vegetation. In the Cowan report from June 26th, it actually has a countermeasure recommendation that just to brush cut and mow the temporary construction area and allow native species to resprout and reseed. This should provide adequate restoration given the density of sweet pepper bush present in that area. So instead of trying to plant after the fact and hope the deer don't eat it, you will have the opportunity to just let it grow back. In the original application, the applicant's also asking for the permission of the commission to keep mowing back the area, if you recall, around the fence and that area, so he has access and can maintain. So even doing that would seem to promote the sweet pepper bush. So going back to why this owner is in this position, this was a subdivision in 1958. All of Leary Drive was a farm. And this is about a 0.43 acre lot, and 0.31 acres was wetland. This was in 1958. Someone comes along, it was constructed in 96 with a permit, and the commission tried to minimize the amount of disturbance at that time from the record to what was needed for a house in a minimum 20-foot backyard, and then they assigned a non-encroachment boundary over the rest, meaning the non-encroachment is had no activity without authorization from the Conservation Commission in accordance with the inland wetlands regulations. So subsequent to that, in 2012, the commission did authorize under section 4.1 permitted use of the placement of the 20 by 20 gravel pad so he could have a shed. So where we are now under application comments, the commission has to consider under section 10 of the regulations, the impact of the proposed activity on wetlands, the applicant's purpose for the regulated activity, and any feasible and prudent alternatives which would cause less or no impact to wetlands. And I think that's really where the commission should continue at this time.
The house, I'm looking at the aerial photograph. The house to the right has a pool in the back. How close is that to the wetland?
I haven't been on that property, Tally, so I can't truly say. But from the 1996 application to build the house, it looks like that was fill.
The wetland was filled?
Oh, the lot has fill on it. A large portion of this wetland is off-site to the north.
Yes.
So on page 2, point 2 of my comments, so the wetland report states that the proposed activities balance residential use with protection of wetland function and value. There are no significant adverse impacts to the subject wetlands, no impact to wetland hydrology or wetland wildlife.
Julie here with a question. Everything is drawn here very square, and has there been any thought to minimize that area of disturbance to the east of the house? Maybe just clearing a path in a diagonal sense, coming not very close to the deck, but kind of oriented that way across the corner of the lawn, so sacrificing a bit of the already claimed and nicely manicured lawn, but that would then save perhaps some of the wetlands area from being disturbed.
Well, I believe as it currently stands, the area to the east of the house is also wetland, and is also just briar and brush, and the area that is going to be constructed upon is briar and brush. I think Julie's comment is one to consider about whether or not it is possible to have less of an impact by pulling the pool less from directly behind the house. Now, of course, I understand that that is the purpose of the pool, is to have it in the backyard. That's where you want it. I get that, absolutely. Whether or not we can minimize impact to the wetlands, considering that much of that briar that is going to be on the eastern yard is going to be coming out anyway. Now, is that area, I believe if we look at the aerial photography, that briar is not particularly forested, so there aren't any standing trees in that section?
I believe there are two, Michael.
There are two? Okay,
There's good photos in the application.
thank you. The only question I have is if we can shape the pool's disturbance area ever so slightly such that we're pushing back no further into the main body of the wetland. But if no one else on the commission feels that that is an issue to worry about, considering that the proposed limit of disturbance for the pool is a contiguous line with the limit of disturbance for the shed from 2012, then I will let the point go.
Well, just to further that question, Rob, did you kind of play around with moving the pool in that area, kind of checking different shapes and different orientations?
I did, and I learned a lot after getting the impact study. So I appreciated that recommendation because I learned a lot about this. And it seems as though the further east we go with the pool is better drainage leaning north, is from what they told me. So as much as I wanted to get as close as I could to the shed and not disturb the drainage leading north, left me thinking the pool where it sits on this diagram is good, maybe move it over a little. But what I was thinking was maybe I just don't go all, to that property line all the way to the right. Maybe there's a way that I don't have to just clear all that down. I just go as far as I need to, because we want I want those like wetlands kind of in between my house and my neighbor. And
Right.
he does too, but I also don't want to get like caught not asking for this, and then I can't get machinery in there, and because my goal, my wife's goal, is really to have that wetlands grow in or keep what we can along that property line, which I think, to your point, would help me, to both of your points, reduce the amount of impact I have, leave what I can there, and not even take what I'm asking of all this on that edge of that property line, which I think can help everyone. So moving it the other way towards the shed just wasn't conducive. I think by keeping it where it is and even a little bit more actually to the east would have been preferred, but I didn't, just because I think keeping some of that wetlands, that boundary, I feel I may not even have to knock all of that down to get equipment in there. But I did this just because when talking to staff, you can't go back on this. Like I can't come back and say, whoops, I made a mistake. I needed to cut down more to get a truck in there. I can just tell you, I really want those wetlands between my pool, the fence, and my neighbor. I really do. How much of the deep, untouched wetlands? Maybe it's 5 feet across, 6 feet across, but I'm willing to do that because that's what we really want to do. I just didn't want to get started with this project and not ask for it and then go into the wetlands and do damage on things that I haven't had permission to do. That's why I just went straight to the property line and straight across for your review.
Can I ask if it's possible that you plan to be there when the crew arrives to kind of be part of that initial briefing where you can kind of do a sweeping overview of what your intention is for, you know, trying to minimize, even though they may mark it off, trying to minimize as best as possible that impact, that
Yeah,
clearing?
absolutely. I actually have plans on doing that. I am 100% committed to keeping as much of that there as we possibly can keep. For the reasons I stated, I will be there. I believe it was a recommendation that I have to have a silt fence in as soon as all this is done too. So everything's going to be very, very clear. I'm not going to ask for forgiveness later. I know how this works. And that's why I just asked for this easily identifiable piece straight across, right to my boundary. And then from there, I work myself in. I just work myself in and out to the east as far as I have to. And I will plan on being there. I will be in constant contact with staff. This is trying to ask for the least amount that I need to do this. And, but yeah, to answer your question, I will be on site to ensure that this is followed precisely. So.
Well, I think that's very reasonable, you know, boundary, and certainly very well supported by your reasons.
So the one last thing, based upon staff findings that I would like to comment on is the report, the wetland impact report, suggests that salt pepper, God, what is it called?
Sweet pepper bush.
Yes, thank you. The sweet pepper bush should repropagate through that area. And I'm just wondering if it's possible in the permitting process to have the ability to have a, what's the word? Specific recommendation that at, you know, the 1 year period, there is assessment to make sure that proper revegetation has occurred naturally after, you know, 2 or 3 years. And if it hasn't, then to consider some plantings, because it shouldn't be important, but we do want to make sure that we stabilize those soils. We do want to make sure that the vegetation grows back in, and it would be really nice if we let it have it naturally, but we should probably check in on that after we clear that area.
Good point.
It's fair.
I haven't been to the site, Maureen. Is there a lot of vegetation to the north of the proposed pool?
There is acres upon acres. There's nothing that stops it from going all the way to Goshen Road. It's probably one of that, like what they told me, it's like very, very robust. And it really does, the drainage leads away to the north naturally, away from both houses where it's going to be. And it goes on it goes on. I mean, Maureen can tell you, it's designed, or it's described as very, very dense. And it's really just my lot. Every other house goes all the way to their stone wall, for the most part, like lawns. Mine goes to, you know, basically the wetlands, but then it all butts to wetlands, like across all of our properties. So it's a really sound, it's relatively dry. I can tell you that. You know, knock on wood, we've never had water. We've never had, you know, any water anywhere in our house, near our house, even in the back puddling. You have to go deep into the woods kind of to see anything. So I think it's pretty dense back there, Tally.
Yeah. What is the pleasure of the commission? Is the pleasure of the commission to have Maureen do a draft for our next meeting?
Yes, I would make such a motion, Mr. Chair, that we move to draft on permit C-20-08.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Really?
Any discussion?
Yeah, Dave Lurch here. I have one item here. So the area now that we're going to set back as far as the limit of disturbance versus we're moving back from the front of the pool to behind the pool somewhere. Is there anywhere in that plan that describes where that's going to be so that we don't have creep back to the property line? You know, that there's some type of a physical barrier or something else like we've typically held in other permit applications, so that the individual, and I mean, if you sell your house, the next person comes in here, you know, knows how far back they can go beyond the pool to, you know, disturb or, you know, to mow or do whatever, cut trees down.
That was the purpose of my question about what was to the north of the pool.
Correct.
Yeah, see,
Some kind of, you know, either plantings or something.
Right.
Make sure you don't go beyond that area.
Yep. I think the goal is because that was brought up in discussion, I think earlier, a clear delineation of where it starts and ends. That's why the straight line across was important. We plan on putting a fence, even though we don't want to do a large, deep, big fence in the back. We do plan on putting a fence to earmark the property, like where it stops, the wetlands. It's a clear delineation with the fence. We thought that was a safe way to go. We need to get a fence around the pool anyway, and why not make it the actual buffer? You can't go further than that. So that was our plan on that.
Well, from the curtain, the curtain of your pool to the end of your property line is how much distance?
Uh,
About 30.
About 30 feet?
Yeah. In the area to restore.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now, Zoom meetings are hard because it's hard to get a complete picture of everything that we're trying to see here. I'm agreeable to going forward with this, although I will say that you know, typically we've held that, you know, if, we don't work in the wetlands, but we've had now a study. I know all wetlands are different, and and this area disturbance doesn't seem to be all that is minimal. So I'm amenable to that, but I'd like to pull back that limited disturbance as much as possible, and mark it some way so that, you know, I mean, not just give all the way to the property line. We've got a little give and take here because we're taking quite a bit of wetlands. So where can we settle in between here to put that fence up, Rob, or whatever else you want to put in there?
To answer that, Dave, I think going right behind the shed is just a natural place because, you know, it gets rid of the dead tree. So that's going to be a giveaway. I don't plan on going much further than any of the dead trees. I have to get those down. So I thought the actual fence could probably be either over or around the stumps because they actually recommend we keep the stumps in the ground. That was something I learned. So with that, that's an easy way to go across. But then I was thinking, maybe I just don't go all the way across. And like my argument was before, keeping as much to the east as I can. Maybe I'm not disturbing any of that at all. And then even if I do disturb some of that to the east, like Mike said, grow back what needs to be grown back, be held accountable in this approval, that this is the expectation from you. And I just don't, I think if you saw it, Dave, you would see that there's not a lot of room there. I'm not asking for a large pool. I'm not asking for, you know, and I hate to say that because I'm asking for a pool in a wetland. I get it. I understand it. It's just probably goes against all of what you guys believe in, and I understand it. But I also think if I put the fence kind of close to those dead tree stumps, the fence now is my mark. I don't go all the way to my property line. I keep, that untouched if I can, which I believe I can. And I feel like the fence, you can kind of see a temporary fence line already, kind of to the east. And I kind of put that in there just so people would see, you know what? If I can leave most of that or some of it and then grow the rest in that whole area, I thought I was making a reasonable attempt to minimize the impact which is really the goal for this commission and me. I don't want to tap into more than I have to.
Sure.
I hope that helps.
Well, I think you're doing the right, we're going to the wetland, but we're going about it the right way. So I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Dave, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Dave, I do feel the same way in that we do our best to avoid working in wetland at any point possible. And if I had my ability to have a time machine, ideally we would not have even subdivided the lot such that it was pushing this close to wetland in the first place. However, there's a couple of things here that I think we can consider. The first of which is that there was approved activity in 2012, or rather there was activity under 4.1 in 2012. That was very, very close to this area. This is a large, robust wetland, and the wetland impact study does indicate that this small area of disturbance should not, if properly revegetated on the east side of property, have any major impacts on water flow or wildlife, which is important, right? Like looking at the aerial photography, we're not near any vernal pools, right? That's the kind of thing I always worry about. Are we near places where salamanders and frogs are going to lay eggs? No. Are we operating during peak breeding season? Also no, right? This construction, if this gets started over the course of the summer and finishes up in the autumn, then we're going to be operating at a time when it's not as vital that we don't cause disturbance in the wetland itself. So I'm also reticent, but I think that when we see the draft permit and we see the various recommendations and regulations that are part of it, that we'll be able to make an informed decision. I do think that while it's something to be careful with, I do think that Mr. Brule, while he has himself admitted is asking for a pool in a wetland, is going about this the right way. So that's my thoughts on it.
Michael, as always, I thank you for your insight into these projects and your perspective. So I appreciate that very much. I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
I'm ready to go to vote.
Okay, sensing that the commission is ready, all those in favor of going to draft signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Brule.
Going on to the next item, C-20-11, Huntsbrook Road, 2-lot subdivision, Ellen DeGaetano, owner, and Evan DeGaetano, applicant, Waterford Surveying LLC agent. Is there anybody here representing the applicant?
I am. Brian Floric Surveying LLC. Dave Cooley is also on the phone. I just saw him take off mute. There you go.
Okay, would you like to make a presentation?
Absolutely. So, Evan has applied, is going to apply for a 2-lot subdivision. It's a simple subdivision. There's wetlands on the property, obviously, which I'm in front of you guys for. The wetlands were marked by James Cowan, soil scientist, and they were field located by me. Subsequent to that, we're going to, try to build a single resident house there with a septic system. There's a proposed rain garden. And we would like to establish a non-encroachment line. I'm going to take Maureen's comments of holding the stone wall as a non-encroachment line. It's a pretty simple proposal. Wetlands shouldn't be disturbed. And I realize that the driveway and portion of the septic system are within the 100-foot upland review area. Having said that, this is a proposed house. It's not the final house. It's not the final septic system. Everything will be fit according to what Evan wants to construct later on, and when we go in front of planning and zoning, if we get to that point. So this is a conceptual plan that's in front of you. Well, like I said, it's for a single residence, and we've done our best to minimize any impact that we would have to the wetlands, and we believe that we're pretty far away from anything that is of any value.
Julie here. I have a question.
Sure.
I saw Maureen's note to have that the stone wall be the delineation. But you know, if you would maintain a 50-foot wetland buffer instead, which you know doesn't get you that 15 feet close to the wetland flags there. I'm talking like you're closest at 3 and 4. Make that the rain garden area, that little scoop-shaped piece, perhaps. Is that a possibility that we could like add, you know, honor both lines, so to speak? But
Absolutely, that's certainly, Julie. That's certainly doable. I was just going off of what Maureen's comment was. That's certainly doable. You know, the proposed rain garden is outside the 50-foot buffer. Yeah, that's certainly doable.
Well, I haven't had a chance to walk the property, so I don't know what I'm proposing, if that's even feasible or makes any sense. But
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if you have a copy of the plan in front of you or not, but the rain garden is shown outside the 50-foot
right,
buffer.
right. I'm looking at the plans only. I haven't seen it in person.
Sure.
I guess I'm just reluctant to jump in and agree wholeheartedly with Maureen giving up that extra space of woodland, of wetland buffer. Anyway, just my thoughts.
No, I have a question about the lot itself. Where you see the rain garden, where the wetland buffer, is this all part of the lot to the east?
This is a proposed lot. It's a proposed flagged lot. It's hasn't been approved yet. By statute, I have to go to you guys conservation first. So that's what I'm doing. So it has not been approved yet by planning and zoning for you know, the subdivision.
What is the purpose of this thin sliver of land there?
So there isn't enough frontage to have two legal RU 120 lots, so it's a flag lot. It's 25 feet of frontage.
And the one behind, though, that it's wider, the stone wall continues. Is that still part of this
Yes.
parcel?
Yes. Yep.
Just
So
curious shape.
so I see wetland markers on that parcel. Whenever I see this kind of shape, in my experience, it raises a red flag to me. Because I see some kind of road to the east of it.
Property to the east is the Waterford Country School.
Okay, that road. So how would you prevent ATVs from going through this and getting near the wetland?
Well, they'd have to jump over the stone wall. It's not feasible.
I really don't see that on I see the stone wall in sections. But
Oh, so-
if you're coming from that road to the east,
the
Just drive on the outside of the road. Is that what you're saying, Tally? Drive on the outside of the stone wall.
there's a road and then there's the wetlands.
Yeah.
So is that partial from the road to the east to wetland flag number 14? Is that I haven't been out there. Is that wooded or is that a field?
Oh, you're talking way to the east. I can't speak to that. I don't know if Evan, the property owner's here. I don't know if he can speak to that. That's so far in the back of Evan's property.
Yeah.
Brian, I am here if I can answer that. So
Thank you, Evan.
no problem. The property that extends all the way to the rear is heavily wooded. The only point there's any access road is through the Waterford Country School. And it's probably not shown on the map, but close to I-395, there's an old abandoned sand pit that has the road that goes through the country school property that leads to there. That is the only road access in and out of the back side of the property. But it really is probably a quarter mile from the east part of the boundary of this piece of property that you're looking at.
So from wetland flag number 14 to that road, that's all forest.
That is correct. It's heavily wooded.
Yes, I would want some of these people at night, especially in this area where, you guys are pretty well spaced apart, just having it as a speedway. And getting close to that one.
I'm sorry, my phone broke up. Was there a question in there for me? I apologize.
It's just a comment. I guess I would like to go and see this property.
Sure, you're welcome to visit the property at any time.
Do we have permission?
Absolutely.
If anybody would like to look at the property, contact staff.
I apologize to the board. I have to step away. I'm a fireman and I'm at work and I have to go on an emergency. So Brian's going to take over for me.
Well, thank you for your service.
Maureen, do you have any questions?
No,
Michael? Where's Michael?
No, I'm here. I just haven't said anything. I know it's out of character for me. No, not at this time, though. I would like to walk the property as well, so I'll be in contact with staff about that.
Staff is going to be busy.
Dave?
I think you're on mute, Dave.
Dave,
I hate those Zoom meetings.
I thought I was on mute. Yeah, I'll walk the property with staff or another member as well.
I think the consensus of the commission, Maureen, is that we'd all like to schedule an appointment with you at your convenience to walk this before the next meeting.
Do we
That'd be
need a
fine.
motion about this?
No, I don't believe we need a motion. I think, I think after walking the property, we might have more questions of the applicant. Okay, we'll close this and move on to the next item of business.
thanks, Brian. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Maureen.
Correspondence. Wetland restoration plan approval, inland wetland permit C-13-5. Excavation and fill 16 Susan Terrace, Waterford, Connecticut. Staff?
The commission had granted staff the ability to approve the wetland restoration planting plan. And so this is just the letter of the approval with the plan that I approved attached. It took a little while to go back and forth, but as of this evening, I received the planting completion report, and the site has been restored.
Okay. Have you personally seen it?
Yes,
Okay. Does it meet your specifications?
yes.
Okay. Any other commission
critic.
members have questions?
No, if it meets Maureen's tough standards, I think that we can concur with that.
I concur. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll to the next.
Close that violation.
Pardon me?
Close that violation.
We need to make a motion? No.
Yeah,
You can close, Maureen can close the violation.
she can close it without having a vote from the commission.
Correct, as long as you concur that it's been addressed to your satisfaction.
You got it, Maureen.
The commission is in concurrence with your findings. Report of the commission action 446 Boston Post Road, Inland Wetland Permit C-20-09.
This is just a copy of correspondence that by law, state statute, we have to forward to P&Z within 30 days of making a decision. And just make sure you want to get a copy of it. That's for the gas station down by the corner of Annick River.
Okay. All right. And then the next item is Niantic River Watershed Protection Plan update.
I kept this on from last meeting just in case the commission had a chance to review it and had any comments they wanted staff to forward. I know it's a big document. When you have a chance, just let me know, and I will forward your comments to the Watershed Committee.
Okay. When do we need to forward our comments to you by?
I think it was June 30th, but that was from the last meeting. But I'm sure they'll be happy to accept them anytime. They haven't yet scheduled the public rollout and introduction because of the coronavirus affecting public gathering.
Yeah, everything's getting stretched out. So commission members, if you have comments, please forward it to Maureen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item is payment of the bills.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to let you know, because of how these things work, we did receive an application yesterday for completion of maintenance of a woods trail and constructing a wooden bridge over a stream out on Butlertown Road. So the clock will start ticking on this application, but it came in too late to get on the agenda or out to your packet. All right. So there is a new receipt at 36 Butlertown Road that I will be getting out to you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is payment of the bills. There's one for Arbor Day for $20.
What kind of bill is that? Who are we paying for Arbor Day?
It's a membership to Arbor Day Foundation, and we donate trees every year.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The 10
$20.
us we donate.
I'll make a motion to pay $20 to the Arbor Day Foundation.
Looking for a second?
I second it.
Second by Julie. Discussion? Sensing the commission is ready to vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
And Mr. Chairman, we did get another bill after this went out from the day. $78.75.
Okay.
You want to add that to the agenda?
Yes, let's add to the agenda the bill for the day. All those agreeing,
Can
signify by
I
saying
just,
aye.
can I just ask a question? Is that subscription for a 1 month, 6 month, or, I mean, I seem to be voting on this all the time.
What are you talking about, Julie?
The day's bill, is there a way to get it in a cheaper fashion?
Right now, this is a motion to put it on the agenda for discussion.
That's the motion.
Oh, I thought it was already on the agenda for discussion,
No.
sorry.
To put it on the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Let's discuss the bill.
Bill,
Go ahead, Julie.
All right, I'll repeat my question, sorry, now in the right order. It seems to me like we're paying this bill every time we meet, and I'm just wondering, is there what is our subscription? Is it something we can get at 6 months and get a better deal, and, or is this just questioning?
this is the required publication of commission action under state statute. It has to go into the newspaper, and this is our only newspaper, and this is what it costs. So every time the commission takes an action, we have to publish it in the paper, and we have to pay the bill.
Okay, so it's based on every time we publish something. It's not,
The commission, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
when the commission makes a decision, and we also have to notice public hearing.
exact. Okay, thank you for clarifying for me.
It's the bill for advertisement of commission action. I'm sorry.
Got it.
Oh.
I'll entertain a motion to pay the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to pay the $78.76 to the day, such that we are not in violation of state statute.
I second it.
Julie seconds it. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Is there any other business to come before us, staff?
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. I'll entertain another motion. For
I will make a
adjournment.
motion to adjourn then.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Lurch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you for showing up.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Good
you,
night.
Maureen. Good job on all the paperwork.
Yes.
Yes, very thorough.
Good job being our fearless leader there, Tolly.
No problem.
Okay. Have a good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Farewell, all.
The